D. After certain adjectives. Busy plus ing. Don't say, he was busy to revise the exams. Say, he was busy revising for the exams. Worth plus ing. Don't say, is today's film worth to see? Say, is today's film worth seeing? E. After certain phrases. Have difficulty in plus ing. Don't say, she has no difficulty to do it. Say, she has no difficulty in doing it. Have the pleasure of plus ing. Don't say, I had the pleasure to meet him. Say, I had the pleasure of meeting him. Note, take pleasure in. He takes great pleasure in helping others. It's no use plus ing. Don't say, it's no use to cry like a baby. Say, it's no use crying like a baby. It's no good plus ing. Don't say, it's no good to get angry. Say, it's no good getting angry. Look forward to plus ing. Don't say, I look forward to see him soon. Say, I look forward to seeing him soon. There is no harm in plus ing. Don't say, there's no harm to visit her now. Say, there's no harm in visiting her now. Use of the wrong tense. Using the past tense after did instead of the infinitive without to. A. To ask questions. Don't say, did you went to school yesterday? Say, did you go to school yesterday? B. To make negatives. Don't say, I did not went to school yesterday. Say, I did not go to school yesterday. Use the present infinitive without to, not the past tense after the auxiliary did. Note, the answer to a question beginning with H did is always in the past tense. Did you see the picture? Yes. I saw the picture. Or yes, I did. Using the third person singular after does instead of the infinitive without to. A. To ask questions. Don't say, does the gardener waters the flowers? Say, does the gardener water the flowers? B. To make negatives. Don't say, the man doesn't waters the flowers. Say, the man doesn't water the flowers. After the auxiliary does use the infinitive without t2, and not the third person of the present. Note, the answer to a question beginning with does is always in the present tense, third person. Does he like the cinema? Yes, he liked the cinema, or yes, he does. Using the third person singular after can, must, etc. instead of the infinitive without to. Don't say, Ian can speaks English very well. Say, Ian can speak English very well. After the verbs can, must, may, shall, and will, use the infinitive without to, and not the third person of the present. Wrong sequence of tenses. Don't say, Rachel asked me what I am doing. Say, Rachel asked me what I was doing. When the verb in the main clause is in the past tense, use a past tense in subordinate clauses. Note, this rule doesn't apply 1. To verbs within quotations. 2. To facts that are true at all times. We say 1. She said, I am waiting for your answer. 2. He said that London is a great city. Using may instead of might in a subordinate clause. Don't say, last Sunday Elsa told me that she may come. Say, last Sunday Elsa told me that she might come. May changes to might in subordinate clauses, when the verb in the main clause is in the past simple tense. Note: the conjunction that is never preceded by a comma. Using can instead of could in a subordinate clause. Don't say, Ben thought he can win the prize. Say, Ben thought he could win the prize. Can changes to could in subordinate clauses, when the verb in the main clause is in the ost simple tense. Using the past simple tense after to plus the infinitive. Don't say, he tried to kick the ball away. Say, he tried to kick the ball away. Don't use the simple past tense after to. Using the past simple tense after an auxiliary verb, instead of the past participle. Don't say, I forgot to bring my book. Say, I've forgotten to bring my book. Use the past participle, and not the past tense, with the auxiliary verb have and its parts. Using the present perfect instead of the simple past tense. Don't say, I have seen a good film yesterday. Say, I saw a good film yesterday. Use the simple past tense, and not the present perfect, for an action completed in the past at a stated time. Note: when a sentence has a word or a phrase denoting past time, like yesterday, last night, last week, last year, then, ago, etc., always use a simple past tense. Using the simple past tense instead of the present perfect. Don't say, I saw the Parthenon of Athens. Say, I have seen the Parthenon of Athens. If we are speaking of the result of a past action rather than of the actionate, we must use the present perfect tense. When somebody says, I have seen Parthenon, he or she is not thinking so much of the past act of seeing it, at the present result of that past action. Using the simple past tense with a recent action, instead of the present perfect. Don't say, the clock struck. Say, the clock has struck. If we are speaking of an action just finished, we must use the present perfect instead of the simple past tense. For example, immediately after the clock strikes, we shouldn't say the clock struck, but the clock has struck. Using the simple present instead of the present perfect. Don't say, I'm at this school 2 years. Say, I've been at this school 2 years. Use the present perfect, and not the simple present, for an action begun in the past and continuing into the present. I've been at this school 2 years means I'm still here. Using the simple present instead of the present perfect. After a since clause of time. Don't say, since he came, we're happy. Say, since he came, we've been happy. The verb after a since clause of time is generally in the present perfect tense. Using the simple present instead of the present continuous. Don't say, look, 2 boys fight. Say, look, 2 boys are fighting. Note: we also use the present continuous for the future when something is prearranged or expected with some certainty. Lorna is arriving tomorrow at 6. Tom and I are eating out tonight. The continuous form of the tense misused. Don't say, I'm understanding the lesson now. Say, I understand the lesson now. As a rule, verbs denoting a state rather than an act have no continuous forms. Like, understand, know, believe, like, love, belong, prefer, consist, mean, hear, see, etc. Using the present continuous for a habitual action instead of the simple present. Don't say, every morning I'm going for a walk. Say, every morning I go for a walk. Use the simple present, and not the present continuous, to express a present habitual action. Note: use the present continuous to express a habitual action with the word always or with a verb denoting a continuous state. He is always talking in class. He is living in London. Using the verb to use for the present habitual action. Don't say, I used to get up at 6 every morning. Say, I get up at 6 every morning. Or, I'm accustomed to getting up at 6, etc. The verb to use doesn't express a habit in the present. I use means I employ. I use a pen to write with. Note: use to expresses a past state or habit, and it usually refers to some old situation which no longer exists. I used to see him every day. My father used to play football very well. Using the past continuous for a habitual action. Instead of the simple past tense. Don't say, last year I was walking to school every day. Say, last year I walked to school every day. Use the simple past tense to express a habit in the past, and not the past continuous. Note: use the past continuous tense to describe events in the past happening at the time another action took place. I was walking to school when I met him. Using the past tense instead of the past perfect. Don't say, the train already left before I arrived. Say, the train had already left before I arrived. Use the past perfect when the time of one past action is more past than that of another. Put the action which was completed first in the past perfect and the second action in the past tense. Note: don't use the present tense and the past perfect in the same sentence. It would be incorrect to say, my brother says that he had not gone to the cinema last night. Using the past perfect instead of the simple past tense. Don't say, I finished the book yesterday. Say, I finished the book yesterday. Don't use the past perfect unless there is another verb in the past tense in the same sentence.